All right, let's dive right in. We're talking about the essential toolkit for any ethical hacker aiming to be at the top of their game by 2026. We're going to cut through all the noise and focus on the tools that really matter and, even more importantly, the mindset you've got to have actually succeed. So let's do this.
Okay, let's get one thing straight, right from the very beginning. This quote right here, this is everything. Tools don't make you a hacker. Understanding tools makes you a hacker. This is our North Star for this whole explainer. We're not just going to throw a list of tools at you. We're going to dig into the why behind them so you can actually start thinking like a professional.
So, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the hacker's lifecycle, the process itself. Then we'll match the perfect tools for each of those steps. We'll also get serious about how to do all this legally, and we'll wrap up with a really clear roadmap to get you to a pro level by 2026.
First up, the hacker's lifecycle. Now, this is not what you see in the movies with some chaotic, random typing. No, professional ethical hacking is a methodical, disciplined process. You know, it's kind of like a detective's investigation, where every single step builds on the last one.
These are the 5 core stages of pretty much every professional engagement. You start with reconnaissance. Think of yourself as a scout, just gathering intel from a distance. Then you move into scanning and enumeration, where you start actively poking around for weaknesses. Exploitation, well, that's when you actually try to get in. Post-exploitation is what you do after you're in, exploring the network. And then, and this is absolutely the most critical step, reporting. That's where you document everything so the good guys can actually fix the problems.
All right, now for the fun part, the actual toolkit. We're going to map some seriously powerful tools to each stage of that life cycle we just talked about. And remember, the goal isn't to have 1,000 tools you barely know. It's about mastering the right tool for the right job.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with reconnaissance. Before you even think about launching an attack, you have to understand your target inside and out. You know, what kind of servers are they running, who works there, what are they posting online. This is all about gathering intelligence without ever touching their systems. It's looking, not touching.
And the absolute cornerstone of this phase is Nmap, the network mapper. There's a reason this thing is the industry standard. It's just so reliable and flexible. Honestly, think of it as your digital set of lockpicks. It lets you check all the doors and windows on a network to see what's open, what's closed, and what's just filtered.
So Nmap spits out a bunch of information, but this is where the real skill comes in. You're translating that raw data into clues. An open port isn't just a number, it's a potential doorway in. A specific service version? That's a huge hint that you can go look up known vulnerabilities for it. You're not just collecting random facts, you're building a strategy. You're putting on your detective hat.
Now, Nmap is a superstar, but it's part of a team. You've got tools like Shodan, which is basically a search engine for all the weird stuff connected to the internet. Think webcams, servers, traffic lights. Then there's Reconnaissance, which is great at automatically pulling public data like employee names and emails. Put them all together and you get a much clearer picture of your target. Okay, so we've done our homework, we've been looking from a distance, now it's time to shift gears from just passively watching to actively probing. This is the scanning and exploitation phase. This is where we start to, gently jiggle the handles on those digital doors we found to see if any of them are actually unlocked. And for this, you bring out the heavy hitters. You think a website's database might be vulnerable? SQLmap is your go-to tool. It'll find and often exploit those flaws automatically. Need to mess with the traffic going to a web application? Burp Suite is the undisputed champion. It's like a Swiss Army knife for web testers. And remember that vulnerability you found with Nmap? Chances are the Metasploit framework has a ready-made exploit you can use to safely test it.
But hey, it's not always about kicking down the front door. A couple of other skills are absolutely critical here. One is traffic analysis, actually seeing the data as it moves across the network. The other is auditing password strength. Both are totally essential for any real security assessment.
For looking at that network traffic, Wireshark is king. It's like a microscope for your network that lets you inspect every single piece of data. Then for testing password security, you've got Hashcat, which can crack password hashes at unbelievable speeds. And if you're up against a live login page, Hydra is your tool for trying thousands of password combinations to find the weak ones.
Okay, let's hit pause for a second. This next part is, without a doubt, the most important section in this entire explainer. It has nothing to do with a tool or a fancy technique. It's about the law. Understanding these rules is what separates a 6-figure cybersecurity professional from a criminal.
Look at this chart. The difference between what we do and what criminals do boils down to one single word: permission. An ethical hacker has explicit, written consent to test a system, and they work within a clearly defined scope. Their goal is to make things better. Without that piece of paper, without that permission, it's not ethical hacking. It's a felony. Full stop.
So with that super important legal framework burned into our brains, you're probably wondering, okay, so how do I actually start building these skills for 2026? Well, let's lay out a clear, actionable path for you.
Your journey really starts with your workshop, your environment, and for us, that's Kali Linux. Once you're comfortable there, you master the fundamentals, recon and scanning with Nmap and Wireshark. From there, you level up to web apps with Burp Suite. Then you get into real exploitation with Metasploit. And finally, you can tackle advanced stuff like password auditing with Hashcat. See the pattern? This learning path is basically the same as the hacking lifecycle itself.
I can't stress this enough. You can read every book and watch every video on the planet, but ethical hacking is a hands-on skill. You absolutely have to practice to get good. And I'm going to say it one more time, that practice has got to be legal. And the great news is, you don't have to guess where to do this. There are incredible, safe, and legal online playgrounds built just for this. Sites like TryHackMe, Hack the Box, and OverTheWire are basically virtual gyms. They're filled with machines that are meant to be hacked. This is where you go to turn what you know into what you can do.
And looking forward, what about AI? Is it going to take all our jobs? Nah, not so fast. It's already here, for sure, helping us automate the boring stuff. But you have to remember, AI is an incredibly powerful assistant, but it's not a replacement for your brain. The critical thinking, the final validation, that always has to come from you, the human expert.
So there you have it. We've walked through the life cycle, the key tools, the legal lines you can't cross, and a clear path to get you started. Look, the tools are only going to get smarter and more powerful, but at the end of the day, they're just that, tools. The real question, the one for 2026, is for you. How are you going to use them to make our digital world a safer place? Thanks for tuning in.